All right, let's get into it. When you think about it, very few people have lived such wildly different public lives as Bill Gates. I mean, he's been the rebel hacker, the ruthless CEO, and now he's a globe-trotting philanthropist. So today, we're going to unpack that incredible transformation. How does one person become all of those things? And really, this contrast right here is the whole story. On one hand, you've got the guy who helped put a computer on pretty much every desk in the world. And on the other, you have this leading figure in the global fight against diseases like polio and malaria. It's almost like you're looking at two completely different people living in two totally different realities. And the scale of this pivot from one to the other, it's just staggering. So far, his personal charitable donations have hit around $100 billion. I mean, that's a number so big it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And it represents one of the single biggest transfers of wealth to philanthropy ever. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to explore this tale of two Gates, the pioneer and the philanthropist. We'll take a look at what drove the tech giant, and then how he completely re-engineered his life's entire mission. And honestly, these two pictures just illustrate the whole journey perfectly. On the left, you've got this teenager in a school computer lab surrounded by these clunky old machines. And then on the right, 50 plus years later, he's standing right alongside world leaders talking about the future of the planet. It's an absolutely unbelievable arc. So let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Act 1, the pioneer. This is the story of a brilliant, super competitive, and frankly utterly obsessed young man who saw the future in a way that almost nobody else did. The whole story really kicks off right here at the Lakeside School in Seattle. It's where a young Bill Gates met his friend Paul Allen. The school's Mothers Club had used rummage sale money to buy a computer terminal, and for these two kids, it was basically love at first sight. They became inseparable, just obsessed with programming, and even exploiting bugs in the system to get more free computer time. But this wasn't just some teenage hobby. Gates had some serious intellectual horsepower. He scored a near-perfect 1590 on his SATs. I mean, getting into Harvard was a breeze for him. And while his parents were really hoping he'd become a lawyer, well, Bill had some very different plans. And just look at how fast this all happened. He gets to Harvard in '73, right? But just over a year later, he and Alan spot this magazine cover. It's featuring the world's first microcomputer kit, the Altair 8800. And for them, that was it. That was the starting gun. Within months, Gates was gone from Harvard, moving to Albuquerque to start a little company they called Microsoft. But you gotta understand, this wasn't just some reckless leap of faith. He was a calculated risk taker. This quote says it all, right? He knew he had a safety net. It really shows a kind of pragmatism that would define his entire career, taking these massive bets, but always having a backup plan. And really early on, Gates made a move that was deeply unpopular, but absolutely foundational. He wrote this open letter to hobbyists, basically arguing that sharing software for free was theft. Now, in the very communal hobbyist culture of early computing, this was a radical, almost offensive idea. But it established the concept that software was a product, and that created the foundation for the entire commercial software industry. And that move really sets the stage for Act 2, the Emperor. This is where the scrappy founder transforms into a titan of industry, a brilliant but, as many would say, notoriously tough leader who would go on to completely dominate the tech world. The big turning point was the legendary IBM deal. And it all started with a bit of luck. His mom served on a board with IBM's CEO and just happened to make the connection. So IBM needed an operating system, and they needed it fast. Microsoft didn't actually have one, so they went out and bought one for 50 grand, tweaked it a bit, and then made the single most important move of all. They licensed it to IBM, but they absolutely refused to sell the copyright. That one decision, it changed absolutely everything. Because when other companies started cloning the IBM PC, they all had to go to one place to get the operating system, MS-DOS. They all had to go to Microsoft. All of a sudden, Bill Gates wasn't just a programmer anymore. He was, as PC Magazine put it, the man behind the machine. His influence was just undeniable. And the result of all that? Well, by 1987, at just 31 years old, Bill Gates became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. The scale of his success was it was totally unprecedented. All fueled by the absolute explosion of the personal computer, with Microsoft sitting right at the center of it all. Which brings us to what is maybe the most dramatic transformation of all, Act 3, The Philanthropist. So after conquering the world of software, and after facing intense scrutiny from those landmark antitrust lawsuits, Gates started looking for a new set of problems to solve. Only this time, they were the biggest, most complex challenges facing all of humanity. And the scope of this new ambition, I mean, look at this list. It was massive. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation went after huge, systematic issues: global health, poverty, education, climate change. But here's the crucial part. He attacked these problems like he was debugging a piece of software. He applied that same intense, data-driven, results-oriented mindset that he used to build Microsoft. He wasn't just writing checks. He was hunting for scalable solutions and measurable impact. And in this new role, his whole status changed. He wasn't just a tech CEO anymore. As you can see in these pictures, he became a fixture on the world stage, meeting with presidents and prime ministers, really operating with the influence of a head of state, but a head of state focused entirely on health and development. But it wasn't just about his own foundation. He also tried to change the entire culture of wealth itself. Along with his friend Warren Buffett, he created the Giving Pledge. It's a public promise that encourages the world's wealthiest people to dedicate the majority of their fortunes to charity. It's really an attempt to redefine what a billionaire's legacy should be, shifting the whole focus from accumulation to distribution. So, where does all of this leave us? Well, the truth is, Bill Gates' story is still being written. His work, both in technology and in philanthropy, continues to shape our world, and his legacy is still a subject of really intense debate and fascination. And that really leads us to the final question, doesn't it? Is he the pioneer who brought computing to the masses, the ruthless emperor who built a software monopoly, or the philanthropist who tried to solve the world's biggest problems? The truth is, he's all three. And understanding that complexity, that he can be all of those things at once, is probably the real key to understanding one of the most consequential figures of our time.